Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, Emily Sophia, aka Mighty Sophia, here to break down for you guys to the very best of my ability the latest episode of Westworld. We are on season 1, episode 7, and it is a French word/phrase that I am unable to get my English-speaking mouth and tongue around, and so I am going to use the magic that is Google Translate to inform you as to what the title of the episode is. So, without further ado, let's see if I can make this work.
Trompe-l'œil.
Okay, one more time.
Trompe-l'œil.
There you go. I tried really hard to practice that before starting this review, and I botched it every single time. So I figured rather than embarrassing myself, I would tap into the wondrous world of technology. Speaking of, let's get on with discussing this episode, and there will be spoilers aplenty. So if for some reason you are not caught up on everything in the show to date, you best bookmark this review and hightail it on back here once you are up to speed. And of course, disclaimer, this video is just the beginning of the conversation. I cannot profess to share or validate every theory or to key in on every fascinating detail, because I know that there is a bit of an arms race in the Westworld fan community to figure out, how many timelines we're working with, who's human and who's not. I can't possibly get into all that business in the confines of this review, so I implore you guys, please enlighten me as I attempt to enlighten you. So, a major fan theory, that is almost what I just said, a major fan theory has been confirmed in tonight's episode, that being that Bernard is one of the synths. And that was a very, very popular theory that I read into a wee bit myself. And I mean, hell, there's people theorizing that like everybody in the show is a host or something just delightfully outlandish, but this is an exciting little morsel of information that has some pretty cataclysmic implications for the rest of the show, and also calls into question basically everything that we have seen so far. Because the revelation that Bernard is a host, that's not the extent of the reveal here. There is in fact quite a hefty body of information on Bernard quite possibly being Arnold himself, or the Bernard that we see in the present being a clone or replica of Arnold himself. And I think at this point that is the theory that I would subscribe to more. And I do so dearly wish that I had the time to go back and watch everything that we have seen Arnold in, or rather seen Bernard in. It's a bit of a Freudian slip there. And try to see if all of the pieces fit. But kind of broad strokes wise, a lot of stuff lines up. There's actually a really, really great Reddit thread that kind of compiles all that information, and that stuff from even before tonight's episode. But yeah, generally speaking, I believe that Bernard is a clone of Arnold, and that the conversations that we have seen between Bernard and Dolores are actually flashbacks to the 30-some years ago before Arnold got axed and taken out of the picture. I think that's what we're working with. And so it's almost inconceivable to me that there could only be one timeline. And I know that we are probably so far past that point, but I figure it's at least worth saying just to kind of keep our brains on some trajectory. But yeah, I'm not going to get into all of the evidence in the context of this review, but yeah, it's exciting to finally have something concrete in that regard, because after a while you kind of start feeling like this wild conspiracy theorist and like like getting no answers, and so all you can do is just kind of press further and further and further. And now the question is, exactly how impactful was that reveal? Did it end up living up to your expectations as a viewer? I personally felt it didn't necessarily elicit a huge emotional response from me at that point. It was more kind of like, okay, I see what you're doing, Ford. You know, I love a good Anthony Hopkins performance, and the way that he cornered Theresa at that point was kind of terrific. This guy has got menace down to a science. I mean, he was so prepared for this situation, and hell, used Bernard to get Theresa into this situation, that he had this entire evil, villainous monologue prepared, you know, talking about how the theory that intellect is like the beautiful feathers of a peacock, and, you know, what are all these things that humanity is striving for. Ultimately, we have this beautiful thing that is essentially just part of a mating ritual, a way that we seduce others and form partnerships, and we can only console ourselves with that beauty while we are unable to fly. We're left pecking at the ground. And so Ford is just completely demoralizing Theresa and stripping her of everything, of even the romantic liaison that the two of them shared. And then ultimately he flips that whole thing to suggest that the hosts are actually free within his control, and that he is continuing to enact his vision and to fulfill his dream. And would we have expected anything less? Truly, I really would like there to be a universe where Ford and Anthony Hopkins Hannibal Lecter are the same the same person, because I think there are so many overlapping traits between the two, and that's not just because they have Anthony Hopkins in common. But man, yeah, I think that Hopkins aspect of that final scene was so delightful, and he knows how to chew the scenery like nobody's business. And in fact, himself is just such a talented orator that listening to him speak and the way that he lets these words fall from his tongue, like, everything is so meticulously planned. And so you do believe that he is the puppet master and that there is nothing that can get beyond him. From just the confidence with which he speaks and that glimmer that he gets in his eye. It's just such a pleasure to have an A-lister like Hopkins in this cast, and of course in this role, and in his godhood. He is only gaining momentum at this point, and it's a marvel to behold, truly, and I think is one of the things that has made this show so appealing for me. And I don't necessarily think that this character has a lot of longevity, because plenty of people have it out for him at this point. But nonetheless, I'm just celebrating what we got while we got it, because it is truly a treasure. Now, Theresa as a character was never somebody who I really felt like I empathized with or could connect to. And generally, we saw Theresa in the context of Bernard and in their communications and conversations and pillow talk as well. Of course, we did get that really cool scene between her and Ford as they were overlooking his giant excavation, and he threatens her there, and then ultimately leads her to the basement of his creation and her uncreation. But now, that being said, I actually wonder if Ford is going to create his own version of Theresa that he can control and move across the Westworld chessboard, as it were. I mean, do you think that has any credence to it? Of course, Theresa is a pretty prominent figure, so she would undoubtedly be missed, and I think that Ford is fully cognizant of that, and he's got his own lair in his own top secret lab where he can basically concoct whatever he wants, and that's where he's kept the prototype files for Dolores and for Bernard. And yeah, so I think that that's probably going to be the next step, is that Theresa is going to come back in the flesh, in the other version of flesh. But yeah, and it's really difficult to see Bernard grappling with the nature of his reality. He's certainly in a fascinating position for one of the hosts, because he has understood on some level how Westworld works, and in fact has been tasked with carrying out all of these tests to ensure that hosts are not beginning to question their realities, and yet he never questioned his. And so it's just like those stacking dolls or stacking eggs as we open them up further and further and further until there is one tiny core little egg, which is probably Arnold, or, you know, the nature of truth and the universe and all that crazy good stuff. So yeah, to see him agonizing over, you know, like I have a family and a wife and a son and all of this stuff. My guess is that those are probably reappropriated memories from Arnold's past. And people have talked too about the parallels between those characters in terms of their stories too. And we also know that hosts are given backstories in order to anchor them so that they have something to cling on to and something that will keep them from going too far astray and potentially breaking down the system. So it stands to reason that Bernard, as a host, would have his memories from somewhere. And perhaps Ford decided to remake Arnold because before the cataclysm and whatever it is that ultimately happened to Arnold, it seems like they were really good friends. They had a good camaraderie, and they walked about the earth as gods together, you know. It's like the phrase from the Bible. God said in the book of Genesis that it is not good for man to be alone, and so it's, you know, maybe Ford in kind of this godly position, not godly in the sense of being righteous and good and such things, but y'all know what I mean. Perhaps felt that he wanted to have the companionship that Arnold offered, but without the mess of Arnold getting so enmeshed in his pursuit of consciousness that it drove them apart and everything went to hell. So he gets the best parts of Arnold and even the physicality of Arnold, but in a form that he can control and oversee and bend to his will. And yeah, I love the multifacetedness of Ford's character that we're getting to explore, and that we even got to explore with meeting his top secret robot family in the mysterious hidden cottage. It's all really neat stuff, and I certainly wonder how the build up to Ford's impending demise is going to look. Because man, does it seem like that guy is on top of the world. He is strutting his tail feathers for sure. And still we don't know what his broader goal is in creating all of these new narratives, but evidently Bernard has been complicit in that. So yeah, obviously I would love to know your guys' thoughts on everything related to Arnold and Bernard. And if there's anything that I have said that's completely off base, then please, get me back on my loop, correct my course, because I don't want to be leading y'all astray. Now, as for the rest of this episode, it was a big one for Maeve as well, who has quickly emerged as one of my favorite characters. And while Dolores continues to be very near and dear to my heart, I think that we are getting the most raw and intense and poignant experiences with Maeve as she is seeing the world for what it truly is. And now she is in a position where she wants to get out. But the maze maybe is not the way that she is going to do that. She's actually trying to rope in the two body shop technicians, Felix and Sylvester, and is threatening them under, threat of certain death to ensure that she can be safely and successfully ferried to the other side of her lie of an existence, which, can you blame the sister? I mean, she is rocking like 100% intelligence at this point, so she knows what she wants and she knows what she has to do to get those things. And for her to have to witness the lobotomy of her companion Clementine, I mean, what a formative and terrible moment, especially with Maeve having this conversation with her earlier back at the bar about what it is that Clementine wants. And it's so fascinating for Maeve to ask these questions from the perspective of a host who understands what it means to have ambitions and drives and longings to go elsewhere and to do other things with your life. And then to know that Clementine is even cognizant of those things. And what she wants to be able to do for her family back at home, who has a failing, fruitless plantation, and she's basically trying to raise money for them such that they can all take off together and maybe go somewhere cold, she says. And it's so, I imagine, depressing for Maeve, knowing that Clementine is ever caught in this loop and has these desires and yet does not have the ability to do anything about them. And so she continues to excel at the art of getting herself killed so that she can get answers, and then Clementine is actually taken away from her right before her very eyes, and Maeve thinks that her time has come, so she picks up a weapon. She is ready to go downtown with these boys, but no, they're coming for her homegirl, so she investigates that situation further, much to Felix's chagrin, and then witnesses the untimely retirement of one of her closest companions. And at that point, it all becomes very, very clear to Maeve what it is that she must do. And I'm so curious how Felix and Sylvester are going to try to secure her passage to where she wants to go, to her freedom. And I wonder what exactly they meant when they said that everything about her is built to be confined to this place, so can they override every single kill switch? These are the questions that I have on a technical level, and I suspect that very soon we're going to get to see all of those things in action. And how cathartic will that be? Because I think Maeve is by far one of the most sympathetic and interesting of the hosts at this point. Almost even more interesting than Dolores, at least for the time being. I still want to know more about the nature of her relationship with Ford and what she continues to discover about the maze. But that being said, I also want to give props to Felix and Sylvester and the actors portraying them, especially Felix, because I think of all the at least ostensibly human characters that we have in the show, I am the most interested in them, particularly being now that their journeys are intimately intertwined with Maeve's, and there is this complete transparency that is kind of mirrored to some degree with the transparency that William and Dolores now share. And this was also a very intimate episode for them. And I am curious as to what extent Dolores is manipulating and using William, or if there is something truly genuine that they have found in each other. And and so we get some conversations between the two of them about what they aspire to, and how Dolores is not content to simply be part of a story. She wants to live from moment to moment and to have all of those things not only completely improvised and unexpected, but for each moment to be as real as the next, and to continue feeling that she is the captain of her fate. And she is to some degree, not 100%, you know. She's still kind of a Pinocchio. She's got the strings attached, but she's running fast and the strings haven't quite started to pull yet. She's not getting that tension and pull back. So meanwhile, William is kind of realizing that his perception of reality and himself has completely flip-flopped, because while he has tried so rigidly to be faithful to his life in the outside world, and of course to his fiancée, as soon as the words come out of his mouth and he breaks Dolores's little synthetic heart, all of a sudden he's like, oh wait, actually, this is the stuff that matters. I can dig it. Fine. And then the morning after, he kind of chews on the whole situation and realizes that this place is not just about appealing to your basest instincts, which is interesting because it kind of contrasts with Ford's speech at the end, also with regards to basic instincts. But he finds that it really does reveal your true self. And I think, too, isn't that something that Logan was talking about before? Even though Logan has been one of those characters who's all about killing and murderizing and having sex with everything, I feel like, I totally feel like he said that towards the beginning. So all of these things are kind of cycling through the minds and hearts of our characters as things progress. And but it's interesting because as he is telling Dolores that she has unlocked something in him, she very quickly corrects him and says, like, dude, I am not a key. I am just a person. And yet she could very well be the key to something rather sizable and crazy. But yeah, so probably we're going to get to spend a little more time with her next time around. But the time spent with the likes of Bernard and Maeve was definitely productive. It was definitely incredibly important. And yeah, I look forward to seeing how all of the implications from this episode inform the final 3 that we have coming up. And there's a few other plot points that I could delve into. You know, I could talk about the board. I could talk about more about William and Dolores's mission, but I think that I've probably come to a pretty decent conclusion here. So yes, lavish upon me the rest of your thoughts and theories. Are you in agreement with me? Did I say something wrong? Because I am known to do that from time to time to time. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching and tuning into this review. I look forward to breaking down the last 3 episodes of this season with you. I am continuing to do The Walking Dead, and I know I've been promising more content, even more than these core series, for such a long time, but those things should actually be coming to fruition soon. So, yeah, anything I forgot? bring it up in the comments below. You guys take care of yourselves, and as always, I will be back before you know it.